Welcome back, my subscribers. In this video, we're going to talk about Steinhart's updated watch case design and whether you'll want to add it to your collection or not. I'm a photographer, videographer, musician, and I'm constantly reminded because it's on my wrist that I am a watch collector, which many, as you know, are considered watchaholics, watch addicts, whatever you want to call it. Please be advised, these are all my opinions. I've always loved watches as a kid, and I grew up with them. It's a lot of family and history to it. So let's get into it. Now, if you've seen my previous watch videos, you'll notice that there's only been 2 videos where I've ever made comparisons, and they've both been with Invictas, and they've both been with homage, tribute, whatever you want to call it, inspiration from the Rolex Submariner. And that's an obvious one. It's a very famous watch. The Invictas come in the 40mm, the 37mm. Those are the videos that I made showing those off. But it's obvious that this Rolex watch has always inspired and gotten attention from all of us because it has so much history going back to the 1950s and probably earlier with it, testing underwater, water resistance and all that goes into watches like this. But also because it's sporty, it's dressy, it's a tool watch, it was used in the military. So we all love the Rolex Submariner, that's not a question. But what I do want to quickly touch on is homage watches, which is what we usually call them, or tribute watches. And I feel like I always have to include a clip on this because our watch community comes in a variety of flavors and perspectives. And there's one camp that is very against anything that is copying or inspired by, because they'll say, just get the real deal, you'll never be happy. But then there's the other side of, why not to be able to tribute something that has over close to 100 years of history? I guess we're getting close to 100 years. More like 70, 75, I guess. Why not be able to have an affordable version of it so that everyone can enjoy it? So I'm coming from mostly that side. I understand, of course, get the real thing if you really want it that bad. And there are a couple models that I have invested in to get the real deal because I've just not been satisfied, and it messes with you when you're buying things knowing that you want something else. But I want to focus on the reality of this model specifically, and watches in general. Watches are very expensive. They are a luxury, they're not necessary. We can tell the time in so many ways now. But yes, watches do have a cultural and a historic side to them that you can appreciate and you can collect. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to invest more over someone else. But where I think these companies come in and add value is that they are accessible. And I would say it's very difficult to get 1, even 3 or more of variations of a certain watch model like this Submariner in different colors without like living in your car or on the street, to be honest, to be able to enjoy something like that. Unless, of course, you have the money and it doesn't matter. So it is more reasonable and financially wise to not spend as much on something like this. So these watches are giving access, and I think that matters a lot because everyone should be able to enjoy the history and the culture of watchmaking. Now, the videos and everything that you've seen out there tends to be Invicta. I know there's like Janol and there's other brands that have done their best to make the most accessible, high quality Submariner alternative possible at different price ranges. Invicta tends to be at the top of that list because we're looking at, for example, if you watch my quartz video, the quartz are going for 30 bucks, 50 bucks. The automatics going for 100, 150, depending on the model. That is such a good deal when you're looking at the history that it's paying tribute to with the design, the water resistance. Like, you're getting a very usable everyday watch that won't let you down. This watch company has captured my attention for a couple of years already. And although I still have 2 Invictas in my collection, Steinhart has always captured my attention because you're able to get what I consider a higher tier of what Invicta's trying to do. And by that I mean you're going to the Swissmade level. And the Swissmade Tribute watch I consider to be of more value than the everyday Invicta that we see or that I've reviewed in the past. But I want to build on that. I don't want you to think I'm hating on Invicta, but if you want a little bit more, and there's more to be offered from a watch, construction, movement, everything that goes into that, Steinhart does provide that over Invicta, and I would say even over a lot of other well-known brands for substantially less money. So like I said, they've been around since 2001, very famous for making these style of watches, 39 millimeter, 42 millimeter, very straightforward. These are the two very most popular sizes, I would say, in the watch community for different wrist sizes. So with that in mind, let's talk about why I'm a big fan of the Steinhart and what it has to offer. But not only that, I want to show you the comparison between their newer model, where they're now asking for you to pay a little bit more, compared to the current model. Well, they're both current. One's the newer model, we'll call it the third version, the second version, and then I have experience with the earlier versions from 3 to 4 years ago that I'll just quickly go over. So let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about the very first model that I ever encountered with Steinhart, and those were the models with the biggest difference between that version and what I would consider version 2 that you're seeing on the screen is that version 1, their case is very blocky. The sides of the case make the biggest differences here. They're a little bit thicker, not as thick as the Invicta, but you'll notice that towards the end of the lug, it looks like it got chopped. So it's a very rectangular, angular cut that is at the end of the lugs on these cases. So that is the biggest difference from the first versions of these Steinharts. The second version, and I don't know actually how recent this second version came out, but take that same exact watch and then look at it with the second version. The only difference is the lugs. So where you would expect the angular cut on the first version, you're now getting a smoothened out, rounded out, more Rolex looking type of lug. Not quite there, but it is more rounded out, and you can see that it's going more with the shape of your wrist versus the angular cut. That visually looks more tool to me. I think it gives me more of a tool vibe, but it's also sharper. Not as like integrated look on the wrist. Similarities between the first and second version is everything else. They have the same movements, the same sapphire crystal, bezel options. The bracelets are thicker on the first and second version. So that now takes me to this third version, and this is where I think they have leveled up. And I know that the price hike could deter a lot of you. I know for the standard Steinharts, we're looking at like $500 to $600. These will push you towards the $750, and if you want the GMT, you're looking at $900, and that range with taxes $1,000. As a watch collector, and as I said, I'm a watch addict, I'm going to tell you that I think it's worth it, especially if you are thinking of reducing your collection and also having a more refined Submariner tribute watch. And I'll tell you why. Now, there's a couple of details in these new models that, although on paper seem very basic, and in pictures you might not be able to tell as well, in person they are a huge deal. Now, the first thing is the dial. You don't think about this much because you take the tribute for what it is. None of the Steinhart models used to have just black dials, black glossy or enamel dials. So you would always be getting like a dark gray, a very matte looking flat gray dial. And it doesn't look bad, but these new models have black enamel dials. So it adds a shine and it adds a pop in contrast with whatever color bezel you end up going with. But it doesn't stop there. The text on the dial has been increased, so you get more visibility. It fills the dial a little bit more proportionally. It removes the date magnifier, Cyclops, and I know maybe some of you may not be happy about that. They got rid of the magnifier, so that already separates this fact here. This minor design separates itself from being a straight up copy of the Rolex, because we're no longer having a magnifier, and Submariners tend to have it. Now, the hour markers, they look very similar to the older versions, but I think I do see a difference. It seems like they are a little bit nicer, more polished. The triangle is a little bit more equilateral, which adds balance to the overall look of the watch. The bezel, okay, let's move on now. Bezel looks similar. I would say it's very similar, maybe a little bit more angular. I'd have to take another look at it. The crystal, big deal for me. Older, the version 1 and 2 of the Steinhart's, flat sapphire crystal. Invicta's flat mineral crystal. This has a domed sapphire crystal. And by adding a dome, you add a lot of dimension to the visual aspect of the dial. So now when you look at the edges of the dial, there is a bit of a magnification happening on the dial, whereas you wouldn't have gotten that before. It really made me think of Omega Aquaterra that I've had in the past and got rid of. Omega uses a lot of domed dials on their watches. Very well executed in this Steinhart. I feel like that elevated this watch a lot, because in different lighting you can actually see that little streak of blue from the coating, the AR coating that's on the sapphire crystal. So now you've got an amazing pop of color just by adding an actual solid black dial that is not distracting, but is adding so much contrast and pop to this watch now. Now the good stuff, the case, completely updated. This case now, you could tell right away, big difference. It wraps around your wrist. The lugs are a little bit longer. They hug your wrist. And the way they were able to make it longer without making the wearability be impacted was by curving it. So versus straight lugs, you're now curving it. So you're still getting the same distance lug to lug, but because it's shaped now, it's contoured to your wrist, it's now much more wearable, I would say, for a variety of wrists, whether they're flat or rounded. And then visually, when you see the watch at its face, straight on, compared to the older model, it's giving me vintage Submariner vibes. So now I feel like what they've made here is a true merge between the 5-digit subs that were the vintage sized 39 millimeters with the nice long curved lugs, with now the modern ceramic and domed style aspects to the case. Those two things together are really making a combination that I've always wanted and looked for in watches like this. Something like it's basically a merge of old and new, and I really, really like that. The crown was refined a bit more, so it does look smoother and cleaner. Crown is mostly the same. We now have the ability to see the movement in the back. You got an exhibition case, which is awesome because it's a golden rotor. It's attractive to look at, and I know a lot of you enjoy seeing the movement in the Invictas and other watches that do this. I certainly love just when I take it off and I look at the movement, it just amazes me the engineering that goes into making these things work without a battery. Now, to wrap up on the updates, the case, like I said, oh my God, that blew me away, because the case now gives me, this actually looks like a vintage Rolex merged with modern Rolex bezel and dial design, because you got kind of like a maxi hour marker look to it. Okay, the bracelet, a lot slimmer from the original Steinharts. Some may feel like they're too light. or too thin. I would say at first my impressions were like, whoa, why is it so thin? But it's well made. They're solid steel. They're not hollow. I mean, the inclusion of the updated clasp is awesome. You can now have that quick adjustment, just like the Tudors and the Rolex and Omega. A lot of the big companies are starting to do the quick adjustment clasp. So overall, I think the bracelet has been improved. I think I wish it was slightly thicker, but in seeing it right now, it goes with the ending of the lug thickness. So I think proportionally it looks accurate. I think a little bit thicker would help make it feel more like a tool watch. Not as thick as the first and second versions, but something in between. Clasp, like I said, great. I haven't had any issues with the clicking and closing. It feels secured. You have to press it on the sides to release it. And then, you know, you're right, your wrist will get a little bit bigger or not, depending on the weather, sweat, all that stuff. You can quickly adjust it without having to take out tools and deal with that. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it makes your life easier. Now, overall, I think is it worth it to pay a little bit more for these refinements? And I think that they are very much worth it. Now when I look down at my wrist, I remember when I used to see the angular cut, and then I remember seeing the same watch with a little bit better lugs. This just looks good. It looks refined, elevated, elegant. It gives you the look if you're going after that. And as a person who's collected watches for many years, and I've been in like, I read it all, I look at the pictures, I follow all the releases. I've been there where I'm like, oh my God, I want all of them. It's not realistic. I love that Steinhart has elevated their style. And when you compare, if you want this look, you don't have to compromise as much anymore, in my opinion. This price point more than sells you and gives you that look, that vibe, without being a straight up copy. And yes, obviously you would recognize it is a Rolex design, but what I mean is we're merging old and new with this design, which is a really cool thing that they did with this update. And it's reliable. So you're gonna be able to enjoy this watch for a long time. Now, they have a GMT version of this that got updated. You're gonna say I'm crazy. I am crazy. I bought it as well. I've always wanted the Rolex GMT black dial, black bezel with the red hand. And it just does not make sense to spend that much money. If it does for you, go for it. But if it doesn't, you can still enjoy that design. And that's exactly what I did. I went ahead and bought it. And I gotta tell you, every single thing that I just talked about, as the updates on the case and everything, all the same, but make it a GMT, is an eye catcher. And I really, really enjoy wearing these watches. I've actually been wearing them for 3 weeks straight now, swapping between this amazing green ceramic bezel, we call it the Starbucks, and the black dial, black bezel. It's not the black. I think we call it dark night. Oh no, is that gray and black? I forget what we call the black with black GMT. It's just elegant. I've always loved the Submariner in black dial, and black bezel, but the GMT version of that has always got my attention. And I don't feel like I'm selling out. I don't feel like I am substituting, although it kind of is, I guess, but I just feel happy. Like, I think I'm also at a point, and you may be in a different point in your journey with watch collecting, where I'm very happy with this. It was thousands of dollars less than I would have spent trying to buy the actual thing. I can get multiple of them, which is not great for finances as well, but it balances out, I would like to say. But I genuinely love these watches. They are a joy to wear, super comfortable, they're light, they're providing me all the benefits I would expect from a Swiss-made watch. And it's right here in this package. It's under $1,000. I know you could go ahead and buy a Longines, you could buy an Omega, Tudor. you're going to spend 3 times more. And that's just the facts. That's where the market is. I don't see it coming down anytime soon unless you buy used, which is another option, and I'll talk about that in another video. I've had amazing success finding very affordable, under 1,000, under 500, used Swiss-made watches like Omega, Longines. They're out there. It depends on your taste. But if you want a Submariner or a GMT look, and you don't want to compromise as much, this is a very good option, and I think you should consider it. So take a look at the samples I'm showing you on the screen. I think they look amazing on the wrist. It flows. It just looks right on my wrist. It doesn't look like blocky or overly burdensome to wear and heavy. These are great options. And shout out to Nomon, who helped me out with getting a discount on the third out of the other 2 that I had bought full price. They helped me out with a discount for the third one so that I can also share this comparison with you all. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.